All right, quick question. Have you ever walked into a room and thought, wow, this place looks fancy and expensive? And then realized, hold on, wait a second. Is it actually just the plants in the room that are making it look like that? Well, that is exactly what we were talking about today. This is part two of the cheap houseplants that look way more expensive than they actually are. These are plants that instantly elevate any space. Incredible plants that look elegant and beautiful, but they're actually very affordable. And make sure you watch until the end on this one, because the last plant on the list is one that people always think is very rare, very expensive, and I get asked about it constantly. But once you know what it is and how affordable it actually is, I think you'll be very surprised. All right, let's get started. Plant number 5 is the Majesty palm. This plant is one of the fastest ways to make a room feel taller and more dramatic. Those long, arching fronds give that hotel lobby, indoor jungle kind of look that people usually associate with very expensive plants. But you can often find Majesty palms for pretty cheap, especially at big box stores, but even at local nurseries I've found. And when they're healthy, they look incredible. They like bright light and fairly moist soil. So if you can keep up with watering, just water them maybe once a week, put them in a window, and they will reward you with a very high-end kind of look. And also, if you mist them down maybe once or twice a week, I find that really helps with any of these palms. But in my opinion, the Majesty palm is one of the nicest palms. It is one of the easiest palms to take care of, because some palms can be a little tough. The Majesty palm, I think, is quite easy. But most importantly for this list, it is also probably the cheapest of all of the indoor palm trees that people commonly grow as houseplants. So there you have it, number 5, the Majesty palm. Let's keep going. All right, for plant number 4, I am talking about the bird's nest fern. Bird's nest fern is all about texture. These wide, rippled leaves, they feel very intentional, like something you'd see styled in a magazine, in an architecture or design magazine. It's not flashy, but it makes the space just feel kind of calm, curated, and put together. Bird's nest ferns, they like medium to kind of indirect light and higher humidity. So the number one thing to remember is to avoid overwatering, but still keep the leaves moist. So I found this is true. This is the trick with any ferns. You want to keep the leaves wet in between waterings while still letting the soil dry out in between waterings. So that's the key with not just the bird's nest fern, but with the staghorn fern, with the Boston fern, with the giant sword fern, is that you need to mist them down in between waterings. All right, so just water them maybe once every 2 weeks, but mist them down a couple times a week so that the soil dries out in between waterings, but the leaves do not dry out. Okay, and so the bird's nest fern, it has incredible color on the leaves, incredible texture. It's quite easy. I've found that while they will grow faster in more bright kind of indirect light, if it's in a window like this, they'll still be fine in pretty low light as long as you're just really careful about the watering. So that is the bird's nest fern, and yeah, when it's happy, it looks way more expensive than it actually is, because these are really quite cheap plants. So there you have it, the bird's nest fern. Let's check out plant number 3. I'm caught up in all the plants here, guys. There's so many plants here, I'm stuck. Anyway, we're to plant number 3, and we're talking about the alocasia, the Amazonica alocasia. And this is one of those plants that it looks like it shouldn't be real. The dark green leaves with those bright, sharp veins. They make it look sculptural, and it's bold, dramatic, and it always gets attention. It likes to be right in a window and be fairly warm. I found that alocasias are pretty sensitive to cold. Okay, so if you can see out the window, there's snow out there here in Texas today. If I had one of these poly alocasias, I'd have it right in the window. But for this week, while it's so cold, I'd put it like over here. I'd get it further away from the window so that it's not getting any draft or any cold from touching the glass. But other than that, the poly alocasia it's one of the easiest alocasias you can possibly take care of, and it is super cheap. Honestly, you can get one of these things for like $5 at this point. And like any alocasia, they're going to constantly duplicate. They're going to constantly spread. They're going to constantly be putting out new leaves, and they're very easy. So they like high humidity. The thing with alocasias is they're kind of sensitive to spider mites, but they need high humidity anyways. So if you're always spraying down your plants, then they will never get spider mites. Spider mites do not like high humidity and do not like moisture. So if you're taking care of the plant properly anyways, then you will never need to worry about spider mites. So I think that's a common misconception with alocasias, is that you need to worry a ton about spider mites. And while they do attract spider mites, if you're taking care of the plant how it needs to be taken care of, you won't get spider mites. So just keep it humid. They're fairly easygoing when it comes to water, and they're very cheap. And so when they're healthy and big and the leaves start to get big, the color of them is just incredible, and they really are a kind of a statement plant that really stands out amongst all your other plants. So it is easily one of the most expensive looking plants that you can own, and easily one of the cheapest plants that you can find, and a very common plant that you can find at any plant store. So there you have it, the poly alocasia. Plant number 2 is the rattlesnake plant. And this plant is seriously underrated, in my opinion. The long, waxy leaves and the bold spots, the bold pattern on the leaves, they give it movement and texture that immediately will elevate any room. Most people have no idea how affordable that these usually are, though. They like bright indirect light and evenly moist soil, and if you can use filtered or distilled water, the leaves will stay looking their best, and they look incredible. But I always knew the rattlesnake plant to be a type of calathea. Turns out that it's been I don't know what the word is. The taxonomical naming of this plant has been changed, so it is no longer considered a calathea. But I always found it was more tolerant of using tap water than other calatheas. So it makes sense that it's actually not a calathea, is what I'm trying to say. But if you use distilled or filtered water, it's still ideal. Just if you have to use tap water every once in a while, it's not going to like destroy the leaves like it would with the calathea. But yeah, these rattlesnake plants, they are, I think, a really special plant. They're very unique looking. When they get big into like a kind of bush and the leaves are just going off in all directions in kind of a spiral, they really do look like one of these fancy collector plants that you'd only see at some rich plant collector's house or whatever. But they're not. You can get a really full, in a 6-inch pot, really full, nice one with a ton of leaves, very lush. You can get one for like $15. And if you want a small one, they grow fairly quickly, so you can get a small one for even cheaper than that. So these are very affordable, very beautiful, very unique, very expensive looking houseplants that are actually very cheap, very common, very easy to grow. So there you have it, the rattlesnake plant. And let's check out plant number 1. We have made it to the end of the list, guys, and this is a special one. Plant number 1 is the Philodendron goeldii. This is a plant that people always ask me about, and always, when they first see it, are shocked. The leaf shape alone makes it look rare and expensive, even though it's surprisingly affordable. It has a very modern architectural look that fits perfectly in minimalist or design-focused spaces. Give it bright indirect light and consistent watering, and it's actually much tougher than it looks. So like any philodendron, water it. I'd say put it right in a window and water it once a week. If you do that, it's quite easy. And as it grows bigger, it has those long, like, curving leaves that put out just one at a time. And as it gets bigger, they can almost come to a full circle. And, it's a very unique plant. This is not a common look for a houseplant, not a common look for an easy houseplant, and certainly not a common look for a cheap, affordable houseplant. So these ones are really special, and they also can get huge. If you can keep them alive for, several years, they can start to get massive leaves, and they can be, they can get to 10 feet tall. So this is also unique for a lot of the houseplants, a lot of the common philodendrons. A lot of them, there are some that get big, but a lot of them, they're going to stay smaller. This one, there's no limit. The sky is not the limit when it comes to the Philodendron goeldii. They can get huge. But also, if you want to keep it small, maybe put it in slightly lower light, cut it back. But just, the way these leaves grow, it's a very special plant, in my opinion, a very unique plant. And I actually do not have one. I've grown them a bunch at different jobs I have, but I do not have one. So this is one that, if you can see, I've had to stop buying plants and bringing home plants because I do not have room for a single another plant. But if I can sell some of these, or move to a giant mansion somewhere where I can fit all these plants, then this is one that I absolutely cannot wait to own and grow one that's huge. I'm gonna be the one who grows that giant Philodendron goeldii. So this is a very special plant. It is very cool, and it's just one of those plants that instantly makes people assume that you are an expert, and then you know what you're doing with plants, and that you've spent hundreds and thousands of dollars on houseplants. But none of those things have to be true to easily grow a Philodendron goeldii. They're just an incredible plant. All right, guys, that's it. We've made it to the end. So please subscribe to the channel if you have not already. We've got a lot more videos coming soon, but those are the plants, basically, that if you want to make your home look expensive and fancy with the plants that you have without spending an arm and a leg on all those plants, then these are some of the best options. And let me know in the comments which ones surprised you the most, or which ones I left off, and let me know if you want a part 3, because there are definitely more where this came from. So thank you guys so much for watching all my videos, as always, and I love you all very much.